Hello, I'm Darryl Earnest. I'm the Deputy Administrator for the USDA Agricultural Marketing Service Cotton and Tobacco Program, and I'm thrilled today to be in the headquarters of the National Cotton Council and joined by Dr. Gary Adams, President and CEO of the National Cotton Council. Gary, it's good to see you.
Darryl, you too. Thank you for the chance to be here.
Well, thank you for the time, and I thought what we could do today is just to have a conversation about some of the issues that not only have been going on in the cotton industry, but some that kind of may be on the horizon, to get your thoughts on some of the things that may be coming around the corner. We're nearing the end of this 2021 and 22 season, but I know there's a lot going on. We're still trying to finish up. So I thought it'd be a good opportunity to give our stakeholders kind of an update on where we are and then hear from you on some of the things that are going on in the council. And I know we're on the cusp of the National Cotton Council's annual meeting, so we've got that just around the corner as well. That meeting will have taken place by the time most people will see this, but I know that's front and center on y'all's agenda. First, just for an update on the current season, we're at over 90% of our cotton classing estimate this year. I think as of this morning, we were at about 16 million bales. We've got 17.3 to 17.5 estimated, so we could be maybe even closer than that. I think we're a million bales or less expected for the rest of the season. I expect that the season will probably carry on for a while. This is the time of year where we tend to see the cotton, it'll slow down coming in and it'll kind of, dribble in as we get through the spring. So it'll be a while before we finish up. But we certainly are on the backside of it in what's been a very challenging season, to say the least. I know that there has been continued strong demand for cotton. I know the prices are still up. We're seeing that, as we kind of monitor things. So maybe as we get started talking about everything, what are your thoughts on that continued sustained demand? I know the market has not really gone down that much. It kind of stayed level for a while now. I've noticed it's inched up some recently. Kind of what do you attribute that to?
Well, you're right, Darryl. We are still continuing to see some strength in prices. Nearby December's trading in the upper 120s, even as we look out to the December contract trading above $1. I think part of what we're seeing is that strong demand. You look at export sales each week; they seem to come in with a strong export sale. So even at these higher prices, demand for cotton seems to remain fairly strong. I think a couple of other things that are going on just within the current price situation is there's a lot of on-call sales out there on the market, so those have to be fixed at some point. Certainly, we see speculative funds coming into the market as well, providing some support. And then again, when we look at the overall balance sheet, particularly for U.S. cotton, when we look at the production that we had last year and then what we're seeing in export sales, it really kind of going through the remainder of this marketing year, we're going to see us end the year with some relatively tight stocks.
Well, that was going to be one of the questions I was going to ask next. Is I know as we've watched and talked over the last few weeks in different meetings and things, the shipping amounts have not really been to the level that everybody was hoping they would be to really track with the sales. Has that improved any, or is that still about the same as it has been?
It's been a struggle, and so sales have been strong, shipments have lagged what they normally would be. We just in the last 2 or 3 weeks were getting above 200,000 bales a week of shipments, which was about 70 to 75% of what the seasonal norm would be for that time of year. Now, we just as we got to the end of January, 1st of February, we had a shipment week of more than 300,000 bales. So that was actually above the seasonal average for that time. We'll have to get more data to see if that's just a one-off point or if we're starting to see things break free a little bit. Hopefully, we're seeing things break free, because if we can't get some improvement in shipments through the rest of this marketing year, we won't be able to get even close to USDA's export number that's in their balance sheet. And I think it'll be interesting to see what adjustments they may make in that export number when some of their new numbers come out.
I know that, in with that supply chain and the challenges of the supply chain, there's been disruptions in various parts of it. We were actually, struggling most of the year with our classing timeliness. And the majority of that this year was caused by really a lack of available labor in several of our locations. I would say probably half of our regional locations, we just could not get the ample amount of labor that we're accustomed to. And it was, I think, for various reasons. We struggled a lot here in Memphis. We struggled in Lubbock, Texas, and out in South Carolina, and we struggled in Abilene, Texas a little bit, and down in Macon, Georgia. So we just did not see the amount of available labor that we're accustomed to seeing. We also saw some delays in getting certain things serviced, equipment, materials delivered, just a variety of things that I know other parts of the supply chain struggled with too. You've probably heard of many of them. Can you speak to any other maybe supply chain disruptions that affected the cotton flow this year?
We have seen it, Darryl, throughout the supply chain. I think one thing, certainly want to take the opportunity to say is and pass along our thanks of the industry to AMS, to the cotton program for all of the work they did to get the cotton class. We know it was an unprecedented season in terms of the labor issues and everything that just kind of started stacking up. So we certainly appreciate everything y'all did to class it on a timely basis. And we're seeing, we saw that when we look at the whole of the industry, some of the gens were not able to run at the same volume they would like to run because of, again, labor issues. And then, of course, we've already talked about some of the logistics and the shipping issues. That's affected the warehouses as we look at those bales being made available for shipment, but then not being picked up because of either lack of drivers, lack of the container, lack of the chassis. You could just kind of go down the list of the issues. And then ultimately that's spilled over into the inability to get the cotton to the end customer. So yeah, it's pretty much been throughout the supply chain. I think the thing to watch for also in the supply chain going forward is input availability as farmers start to look ahead to 2022. And we already know that prices are substantially higher for some key inputs, fertilizer, chemicals. So not just high prices, but I think we also have to watch the extent to which supply chains affect the availability as farmers get ready to plant this year's crop.
Well, first of all, thank you for the kind words. I appreciate it. We were really trying our best to get the cotton class as timely as we could. We knew what the supply chain and the industry was up against. We certainly didn't want to be a disruption in it. I'd like to thank everyone that may see this video at some point for their patience, and extend my appreciation to our entire staff across the country for their perseverance in accomplishing what was arguably the most challenging season most of us have ever seen. So I appreciate that. As we moved through this crop, and we're still seeing this even at the latter stages, quality is very high, very good crop. I mean, it may go down as one of the highest quality crops that we've seen in recent record, which I hope is good for everyone. I have heard a lot about the rising costs with what we see in the market and coming off of a pretty good size, high quality crop. What do you see in terms of competing crops? And then maybe what do you see in terms of, the outlook from some of our major competitors internationally coming up?
Yeah, I think as we look at these planting decisions, we talked about the input cost, so we know that's going to be higher and that's going to put some pressure on producers. Fortunately, the prices are higher as they look at the December contract for cotton. That's going to be the highest planting time price that they've seen probably since going back to the spike that we had in 2011. Mm-hmm. Corn and soybean prices are also up. So the relative price ratios haven't changed that much from where they were a year ago. Both have moved a little bit in cotton's favor from last year's planting time. I think a couple of things that will come into play. I think cotton stacks up well compared to corn because we know corn's very intensive in terms of fertilizer. Mm-hmm. So that's going to come into play there. I believe soybeans will probably be the strongest competitor with cotton for acreage because it's going to be a lower cost crop to plant. Some of the private industry estimates that I've seen would call for a slight increase in cotton acres. National Cotton Council just completed our survey. We'll be releasing those results at our annual meeting, which will take place in Houston on the 11th through the 13th. So again, we'll see how those numbers come out. And I think what we always have to remind the market about is any survey done at this point in time is a snapshot of intentions. Things can change depending on how weather events unfold and depending on how market prices move between now and when farmers actually have to put the seed in the ground.
Well, I know that, with some of the things that are going on around the world, we've got Australia had a big bounce back in their crop, which was good to see after they struggled for 2 or 3 years. Brazil has become has been a major player for a while, but has really stepped it up. And then we've seen some of the issues on labor in China. So in terms of kind of the overall landscape, not only in 22, but maybe looking ahead 22, 23 or so, you see any major changes coming down those or any other players that are maybe evolving into the situation a little bit more than they have in the past?
Well, let's start with China, and major player in the world market, largest user of cotton, one of the largest producers of cotton. There continues to be concerns on labor issues. The U.S. government has taken actions against China due to concerns about forced labor in the Xinjiang region. So we know there's some restrictions that are put in on textile products coming in from China if they're deemed to be produced with forced labor. That's really causing some of the brands and retailers to rethink their supply chains, look at probably bringing more diversity to their supply chains, looking at sourcing from other countries. So you're going to see probably maybe a greater reliance on countries such as Vietnam. Pakistan and India probably will continue to play a major role in the overall textile situation. So I do think that's not just reshaping it now, but it's potentially changing how those supply chains look going forward. I will also say that I think there's a real opportunity right now for textile supply chains in the Western Hemisphere. So we've seen a little bit of recovery in the U.S. textile industry. I think there's some opportunities there as well. On the competitor side, Brazil and Australia are the primary competitors for the United States because they're machine-picked cotton. It's going to go into some of the same markets the U.S. cotton goes into. We are expecting a bounce back or an increase in in the crops from both of those countries. So those are going to be the strongest competitors. Others to watch would be obviously West Africa exports a lot of their cotton. They've continued to deal with their own challenges about shipping that cotton into the world market. And right now there's some political unrest in some of those countries, so that may create some additional challenges for them from their standpoint as a competitor. Another one is Uzbekistan. That's been a long time competitor, but they've really focused more on building up their own internal textile industry. So they're not the presence in the export market for raw fiber that they used to be. So a lot of it comes down to United States, Brazil, and Australia in terms of how that competition shakes itself out.
Well, it'll be interesting to see. I know the acreage projections are up for the coming year, although that has a lot to do with the drought monitor and what happens with the weather. And as we've seen just even as recently as a few days ago, the weather can wreak havoc on a lot of areas in a lot of ways. So even with the acreage up, there's no guarantee that that'll mean a bigger crop. But it is encouraging that the market is staying as strong as it is, even looking out towards December. Any thoughts? I know that there's been some preliminary discussions now, and maybe even I think there was even an announcement not too long ago that there would be some hearings starting fairly soon on the Farm Bill. Any outward projections on what to expect?
You're right. We are starting, I would say, the initial stages of a Farm Bill debate, and the agriculture committees on the House and Senate side are going to hold some hearings. Some of them have already started, really just trying to assess, as a first step, how is the 2018 Farm Bill working? So we've got still this year's crop and next year's crop that'll be covered by that piece of legislation. So the initial stage is really to kind of take stock of what's happening now with the Farm Bill. But as we get further into 2022, I think individual industries, including the cotton industry, will start to look at what our priorities are going to be for the next Farm Bill that Congress will need to write. Based on what we understand from members of Congress, I think most of the heavy lifting on a Farm Bill will occur in 2023. and because we do have obviously the midterm elections coming up this fall, that could reshape the landscape in terms of who's holding the gavel on both the House and Senate side. And so, yeah, while there'll be some preliminary work that's done this year, I think the real work will get done in 2023.
Okay, good to look forward to. Before I kind of give you some closing thoughts on some of the things that we're going to be doing and some of the watchers, I did want to ask you about the status of the trust protocol. I know the council has done a lot of work over the last couple of years and has continued to do a lot of work to try to get outreach out there, educate the industry on what the trust protocol is, the benefits that it can have. Anything that you'd like to mention in terms of status or anything about the program itself?
Absolutely, and it is a sustainability initiative that we've been working on for the last 3 to 4 years. And in the 2020 crop, we enrolled about 300 producers in the program. We're still enrolling producers from their 2021 harvest, and we hope to get up to 500 producers off of the 2021 harvest. We believe it is a critical program in terms of continuing to push forward the demand for U.S. cotton, because we know that the textile supply chain, those brands and retailers are under scrutiny about where they source their product from. And many of them have set targets to source all of their product from what they consider sustainable or responsibly produced sources. We want to make sure that U.S. cotton is on that list, and we think the trust protocol is a way to make sure that we maintain that demand base for U.S. cotton. We've been encouraged over the course of the past year that we've had somewhere between 35 and 40 major brands that have joined the program, and companies such as Levi's, Gap, Gildan, PVH, so some names that growers will recognize. And I think that just shows that, you know, what we can bring together in this program and the data we can collect and provide to the brands and retailers in an aggregate format is meaningful to them. So again, as we look forward, we think this is going to be continue to be a major initiative within you. I think it also can lend itself well to some of the things that USDA is looking at on the climate smart agriculture front. And we hope that's a way to try to hopefully partner together at some point and be able to even drive more adoption within the trust protocol.
Well, I hope so. And, you know, along those lines, a couple of things that we're working on in this year and the coming years. One of the things as it pertains to climate, you know, we've got a lot of data and the ability to look at a lot of data. And we're working now on a way to bring in some outside data that has to do with weather and different things to layer upon some of the data that we've got on the classing side and see if that data can help maybe, you know, or reveal or unveil some things that we didn't already know that was going on. And where we find any of those things, you know, obviously we'll share them and hopefully everybody can benefit from them. And that's just more in our efforts to let data analytics open up some doors for us on what the data can actually tell us. Another area that we're going to continue to expand on, I know that you and I have talked a lot about, is automation. We will be adding some automation systems to our fleet this year. Right now it looks like we're going to add some systems in Memphis and also a system out in Florence, South Carolina. We've had some good success from those automation systems. While they don't completely automate the process, they do allow us to do more with fewer instruments, and we're able to cut our labor footprint down some. So we're excited about being able to put those systems in. We still hopefully will try to move towards being fully automated across all regional locations, either in 2023 or 2024, as the potential unveils itself. So we're excited about that. We will be opening our new Lubbock cotton classification complex sometime this spring. We haven't set a date yet. It looks like it's probably going to be in the May, June time frame of opening it. It's almost complete. It will have some features that we don't have anywhere else. I'm really excited about some of the partnerships we're going to be able to do with not only Texas Tech. We have built the facility on their campus, but we will be doing some outreach to other colleges and universities, as well as research entities and industry as well. So we're excited about that. So there's a lot of really exciting things on the horizon, I think, in 2022. Certainly a lot for both your organization and mine to work on. I don't think we're going to run out of things to do this year, but hopefully it'll be a good year for everyone. So with that, any closing thoughts you have before we wrap up?
Well, again, Darryl, appreciate the opportunity to catch up and to be with you today. I will say we're certainly encouraged to hear about the automation and the focus on data. I think the data that we collect as an industry is a real opportunity for the U.S. cotton industry going forward. Because one of the things that we are seeing, again, going back a little bit to the sustainability initiative, is there's just an increasing focus on transparency. Brands and retailers, more and more, they want to know their supply chain, and they want to be able to try to track the movement of that cotton through their supply chain and know who's a part of that supply chain. And we are uniquely positioned to be able to do that because, as we tell the brands and retailers, we count every bale of U.S. cotton, and they're assigned a very unique bale identification number, and every bale is classed within USDA. So if they want to have that documentation, that data, and that certainty about, okay, this is U.S. cotton that can move through the system, we know that it all starts with us being able to know every bale, and that's really a credit to the work of the classing program. So I think that is a stepping off point for what are tremendous opportunities for the industry going forward.
Well, I agree. I think the future holds some really cool things, and the more we unveil what this data can do for us, I think the more everybody will benefit. Certainly appreciate the time. Wish you all the best of luck in your annual meeting. I know it's one of the major meetings that we always look forward to attending, and hopefully we'll all have a really good and productive 2022.
All right, thank you.
Thanks for the time.